Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Rise Up Lower Merion Indivisible meeting. I want to introduce to you Joe Magid, who's going to be doing some presenting, and we're going to learn a lot and get inspired. So listen on.
Adrian, you want to keep going?
Sure. So we want to find out how everybody's doing. How's your summer been? What actions have you been taking? And do you want to volunteer somewhere? What things do you want to get out of this meeting? So we can start with whoever wants to start. Just undo your mic, or actually raise your hand, and then that way we can keep track of everybody, and don't everybody
Well,
raise their hand at once.
Adrian, if you don't mind, if people just put stuff in the chat, I think that'll be a little quicker and let us get that information hopefully faster, and then we can move on and have time for other stuff that we want to get done, because we've got a lot of stuff on the agenda.
Does everyone know how to use the chat?
Oh, come on, folks. There we go. Thanks, Susan. Who else? Ruth, thank you.
Oh, no.
If you haven't been doing something, but there's something you've been itching, or an issue you've been itching to work on, you can also throw that in the chat too. Like, I've been really worried about Roe v. Wade and looking for ways to get involved with that. That's also totally reasonable.
Yes, and we will save the chat, so that'll go along. If you have something that you put in there that you don't want publicized, just let me know.
So, David, you've definitely come to the right place.
Yeah.
One of our definite intentions today, or this evening.
Yeah, Jamie wrote about the PA Dems coordinated campaign All In. I actually did leadership training a couple weeks ago, where Kamala Harris showed up for
Oh, cool.
60 of us with Josh Shapiro to just motivate us, and it was really good. So take a look at the link that Jamie put in, and go to her little mini town hall.
Yeah, for those who remember midterms 2018 and the wonderful Daniel Sipe, who's actually running for office in Maine right now.
Yeah.
Laura is our 2022 Daniel, essentially.
And she's really good.
And I've heard nothing but wonderful things. So they are hosting a bunch of these sort of town hall and house parties. So if August 2nd doesn't work, let us know and we can try and connect you.
But how about on the self-care side? Has anybody been doing anything fun? How many pounds of chocolate have you had? How many miles have you run? Whatever that may be. Kate, that's great.
My husband's doing the Leadville 100, Joe. 100 miles in Leadville, Colorado in 4 weeks.
And by what manner of motion will he be doing that?
Well, we did the 15 last year. Like, you know, I run to deal with stress. So started running marathons after 2016. And we did, as of last year, we've done 5. And so for the 100, I'm just the support crew. So I'm going to have snacks.
So my question is, do you have a capital accounts fund for your knee replacements?
So, I already need knee replacements. I had 5 knee surgeries before I was 25. So I just decided to go all in.
Okay.
Ooh,
Oh,
Spanish
Jamie, that
sounds
sounds wonderful.
great, Jamie.
Yeah.
Sandra, good deal. Thank you for that.
And for those who are heat sensitive, I know postcards and text banking and phone banking are definitely heating up.
Oh, yeah. I'm also on the DCLMN Democratic Committee, Lower Marin and Narberth, their candidate recruitment. And we're putting together a postcard for people that are low propensity voters. And it's really
yeah. So in the lingo of the stuff I'm going to be talking about, we call those high value voters.
okay. That's good to know. I'm going to share my screen for a second just so you guys can see it. Oh, I can't. I have to wait until you.
Yeah. Let me go ahead.
Just for 1 second. So that's the one side, and then people write on the other side. And we think it's cute enough that people will save it. And if you can see, each of the t-shirts has another symbol. This is for the environment, unity, LGBTQ, schools, and stay safe. I didn't want to put an AR-15 on a t-shirt. So that's it. Stopping share. Back to you.
Great. There we go. Okay, we're on to the next item. As I put in the chat, I've been doing text banking with PA Dems. PA Dems has a lot of stuff as well. Turn PA Blue has been great to work with in the past. So we do encourage folks to work with them again moving forward. And we'll, I guess, is that mobilized, Jamie, for PA Dems that you put in the chat there? I think that is. Great, thank you. I'll make sure I get in there later the link for Turn PA Blues as well. But they've got a bunch of stuff they're doing. But the thing that I will say that they are really great at, and it's been really good to work with them on, is the canvassing. We've helped sort of send along a lot of volunteers over the years to their canvassing events. They do a great job organizing them. I have done several of them. I know others of you have as well, and they're just really great things to do in terms of high impact and engaging with voters. Their phone banks are great as well. They've also been doing some text banking, and of course the fundraising. I think the thing that's most important with Turn PA Blue is they're really generally focused on the legislative races. And then if you get somebody to vote for a legislative candidate, it's highly likely they're going to vote for our up ticket folks, meaning Josh and John Fetterman. So any questions on that? And again, I'll make sure we get the link into the chat.
Yeah, and this is what they're doing this weekend. Saturday for Gwen Stoltz in Percy at 11, and Sunday for Sunday for Lisa Borowski in Newtown Square at 11. So that's close by.
I think, where am I? I believe that is Turn PA Blues mobilized.
It looks like it.
Yeah. Okay. Moving along on our little agenda here. I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to spend about 15 minutes on this. So it's a quarter of, so 8 o'clock if someone would sort of flag me if I'm, or 5 of if I'm running long. So I learned about the race class narrative, I don't know, months ago, and I found it to be really, really excellent. There's a bunch of sessions, and I put some of this up on Facebook that are held by several folks, and they talk about this. They really show you how to do it. But there's some great resources out there, and I've got those resources included in this presentation. I'm not going to dwell on everything, so we'll send the deck out so you will have it. The links are in there. There will be live links when we send this out as a PDF, and you'll be able to do that. But this is the reason why this is important. The first one is when you present messages to voters that are focused exclusively on racial justice, they don't work very well with a bunch of people. In fact, they don't even work well with minority communities, with people of color and whatever. Marginalized communities is the word I was looking for. And at the same time, if you do messages that are just focused on the economy and jobs, they also fall flat with our marginalized communities, and they don't necessarily do a very good job with whites either. But if you put the two of them together and you talk about race and class, as well as things like where you grew up, where you came from, who you love, all of those kinds of things, when you mix that stuff together, it does a much better job of moving the people that we need to move to vote for Democrats. And it cuts through the divisions that have been exacerbated by dog whistle politics. And you guys know what that looks like. You've seen it. When people talk about, oh, well, those people in Philadelphia, what do they mean? We know what they mean, that kind of stuff. And it's just really important to have some messaging frameworks and techniques to deal with that effectively. And this narrative does that. So I am going to play not all, but part of this.
It is a story as
Oops, sorry.
Oldest political history. Communities that have a lot in common are being pitted against one another.
The dog whistles in Wisconsin are coming from every angle. These are messages that are drilled into people's head, and they are othering people.
Because not only are there wedges around race and class, people using to divide us, around issues of rural and urban as well. And so when you're chastising Milwaukee, what you're really doing is saying those black people. It's code. So my grandfather worked for the city of Detroit, and he tells me like this narrative of city versus suburbs has been going back like half a century. There's a sort of scarcity model that I think is exacerbated when you throw in racial tensions.
When people don't have enough, they're looking for an answer, they're looking for a reason. And the person who's vilified, the person who they hate, is the person who...
Damn. Sorry, it's a lot more persnickety than I thought it would be.
other people tell them to hate. When corporate media tells, people that, oh, it's immigrants' fault that you don't have a job, No, it's a multi-billion-dollar corporation fault you don't have a job.
In the Midwest, there's this like Minnesota nice, Wisconsin nice idea, and that's like basically like don't talk about politics, keep everything nice. And it's like we can be nice about it and just hush it over, and or we can like do something about this.
We don't talk about race. We don't talk about class. We don't talk about the scary identity politics work.
We are living in a society in which a lot of people believe that just mentioning race at all is racist and taboo, and that we shouldn't do it. What made me so interested in the Race Class Narrative project is really being able to acknowledge the differences between us, and also be able to say that where there are differences, there are still similarities, and we can still find solidarity across race and across class.
Race class narrative is about understanding the power structure behind racism and classism without denying the existence of either.
We are in a largely rural conservative place, and it was really, really powerful for these county leaders who will be working in these rural conservative neighborhoods to see that, like, actually talking about race, even with rural white voters, moves them. And talking about solidarity moves them.
There were several times when it was tough to even finish because they were interrupting with, oh my gosh, I couldn't agree more, and we need to change what's going on in this country. And it was an incredible, visceral, positive response.
All right, I'm going to stop this one now. Just FYI, this video was produced by a coalition that was working to win the Midwest in 2020. And so whenever they said, you know, Wisconsin, it's just like Pennsylvania. When they say Milwaukee and Detroit, it's just like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. So, you know, that's the kind of dog whistle stuff that I was talking about. And you can see, you know, from what they were talking about that, you know, some really effective impact. So what is it? It's an empirically tested narrative on race and class that resonates with all working people across those different communities, and offers an alternative, and it neutralizes the dog whistle. Has anybody seen or heard about Heather McGee and her book, The Sum of Us? If you have, it's a story about civil rights backlash in the 60s and what happened to you know, the quite lovely community pools that have been built in cities and towns across America, and as a metaphor for why we can't have nice things. Because, you know, when desegregation was ordered by the courts, rather than let Black people come and enjoy the pool as well, they filled them in. You know, that's just sort of the embodiment of the dog whistle politics that has happened ever since. And the purpose of this project was, you know, so many of the project that they did around that was culminated in this race class narrative, and to figure out how to combat the dog whistles. So this is sort of the answer to that. There's a link under there, and again, that link will be live when you get the this deck. The folks that were involved in that are all here. There's a bunch of links for those as well as for the book. And there's additional information again on the research behind that. And there is a lot of research. They do a lot of focus groups, a lot of testing of different messages, preparing them. And then there's again more on why and what that's available as well. So you'll have all those links when you get the deck. I'm gonna play a little more video here.
Black, brown, or white, indigenous, or immigrant, we are exactly where we're meant to be. Our parents and their parents and the parents before them fought to expand our democracy, protected the places we love, and made more possible for us. And it's our turn. Some politicians want to make it seem impossible. That's a lie. They want power, not democracy. We're voters, and it's our turn to lead, to protect what our parents earned, to make it stronger, more inclusive, more fair, more perfect. And we're just getting started. We're voters because November 3rd isn't the end of the election, but it's the beginning of our future. Be a voter.
So this video was part of that 2020 effort they did in the Midwest, and obviously it was pretty good because it succeeded. And they
But
put,
that video used that race class narrative.
right.
You saw how they started out with the values that we all have, and then went on to like identify a villain, things that's keeping us from having these things, and then a vision on how we can do better.
So
And-
there's, yeah, sorry, Adrian.
Yeah.
There's more slide videos in here. I'm not going to play them right now. You know, you can watch them again when we send this out to you. But here is that framework that Adrian was talking about. So I want to get to the slides because I've got it written down here. So, you know, if your words don't spread, they're not going to work, right? So you start out by saying what you're for, and that helps break through the signal, the noise, I'm sorry, with our signal. And it has to be repeated. So that's really important. We have to persuade the middle, also energize the base. And that's what this does. So open with shared values. Name the race and the class component to it along with other elements. And these can all, you know, it has to be all of them. You can use a couple or three in each one. Always name the villain. Who's exploiting divisions? You know, who's really working against our interests for their own interests? And then emphasize unity and collective action to solve the problem. And we connect joining together to achieve the desired outcomes. That's the vision. So, and then you have to name and show that or show that vision. So, you know, we hear year after year how Democrats aren't getting their message out. This is how we answer that problem. We are the Democratic Party. It's really up to us to use our agency to repeatedly reach out to our networks with effective messages, online, in person, the people who cut our lawns, bag our groceries, cut our hair, or whatever. So this is an example. I have a bunch more. Again, I'm only going to do this. You know, let's look at two of these real quick. I'm going to be quiet.
Yeah, you only have 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's fine. Thank you. So here's another one. So I've got a couple more in here as well, a few more. Again, you'll have all these when we send out the deck. And there's resources, you know, for getting more of this stuff as the content's coming out. It's online and they make it available. And we'll continue to do that in Facebook as well. So again, we're the Democratic Party. It's up to us to do everything we can to drive and persuade, you know, the relative handful of swing voters to come our way, and persuade those who came out, many for the first time in 2018 and 2020. You know, these are, again, high value voters, and the potential voters, people who are newly eligible or just didn't vote in the past. These are all the people that we're going after, you know, really to keep them coming out to save our freedom to vote, our freedom to decide, our freedom to marry, and to save our democracy.
Yeah, because it's hard to argue with somebody when you start out with a shared value. And the one group that I've been working with on this sends out, you know, examples that have been focus tested that are, so we'll share those with you also. And
yeah, so this is another article that talks about the framework and where it came from. These are some videos that are good background as well. Don't take very long to watch. And then these podcasts are by Anat Shanker-Osario. She's one of the folks. This is her Twitter handle, Natosaurus. She's really great. And you know, I would strongly recommend following all of these. And WMTF Action, it's We Make the Future Action, has resources, and they keep getting updated, and a lot of the Anat stuff is feeding into that. And then Words That Win's another group that also helps disseminate this information. So that's the end of this part of it. Again, no one's expected to gain instant command of this stuff. But if you spend some time looking at it and paying attention to it, and it's, sort of start seeing it in places, then you'll say, oh yeah, I can do some of that too. And you don't have to do it perfectly. It doesn't have to be exactly right. You don't have to have every piece of it, but the more that you begin to use it, the more effective your messaging will be as well. And this is the link here to register for those briefings. The link does change on occasion. If for any reason it doesn't work for you, just let us know and we'll get you an updated link.
Okay, and I think they're on vacation for August.
Yes, they're on vacation for August, correct. Okay, next section. Oops, we did that already, didn't we? We did, sorry, my goof up. Adrian, this one's on you.
Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about the amendment process in PA. So everyone kind of remembers Schoolhouse Rock, I'm just a bill. Well, while Schoolhouse Rock specifically covered the congressional structure and process, the PA legislature is structured in a similar fashion. They have a legislative and executive branches, or the governing part, and they include the legislative branch is called the Assembly. There is a House and Senate, and those are each called chambers. So I'm not going to go through the rest of it because it's 2101 for this group, but I just wanted to make sure you knew when I said chambers that that's what I was talking about. Okay. In Pennsylvania, the process to pass a constitutional amendment is different than the US Constitution, which has to pass in Congress by a 2/3 majority and then be ratified by 2/3 of the state. In Pennsylvania, to get on the ballot, a constitutional amendment bill must pass through both chambers of the legislature with only a simple majority, but it must be passed with no changes in both chambers in 2 consecutive legislative sessions. The governor cannot veto this. When Josh Shapiro says he'll protect abortion, he can't protect it from a constitutional amendment. We need the Assembly. Once passed, the measure is then sent as a ballot question for voters to approve or reject. These ballot questions are typically poorly worded, which leads to confusion, put forth during an odd year primary when there is typically low turnout, and non-affiliated voters don't think they can vote because PA is a closed primary state, which means that only Dems can vote for Dems in the primary and only Republicans can vote for Republicans. Independents, third-party members, and voters who haven't chosen a party do not have a voice in those races. They can, however, vote on ballot questions, but most people don't think, who are unaffiliated, don't think they have to bother showing up for the primary. So if it is approved by voters, the ballot question, and only by a simple majority, and barring any legal challenges, it goes into effect and becomes part of the Constitution. Republicans in the Assembly have weaponized this process. Their gerrymandered majority is using this strategy to bypass the governor and upend the balance of power in PA. They can't get the 2/3 majority needed to pass these radical bills that would override a veto, and a majority of Pennsylvanians really don't want these things. So they use that constitutional amendment process instead. They've already done this, taking away some of the governor's emergency powers, and then the legislator had to scramble to put back protections that were in place to address the opioid crisis. So, so with the gerrymandered majority GOP in the Assembly, these bills can pass with no Democratic input. Our reps are effectively silenced during this process. We aren't allowed to present amendments to the bills or have any voice. I'll put a video of Rep. Joanna McClinton talking about this. Currently, the Republican-dominated PA legislature has approved SB 106, an amendment declaring that abortion is not a constitutional right, requiring voter ID, and even more stuff. And it's something to do with being able to go and do something with elections. So this measure that passed already in the middle of the night, when it's part of the Assembly's rules not to go past a certain time, they went past it. And this only needs to pass in another legislative session to get on the ballot in the 2023 primary. And an odd year election, again, a primary that not many people show up for. And that's especially true in Lower Merion, Narberth, because we do endorsements, so there's no real race and no incentive for the people, for Democrats to come out. So the ballot measures almost always get voted in because Republicans can slip them into primary elections, knowing that historically low turnouts in those elections work in their favor. It already worked last year when they slipped a ballot measure in that reduced the governor's power to act in an emergency. If the anti-abortion measure passes, it will be codified in the PA Constitution, and there's nothing a Democratic governor can do about it. Therefore, we have to work as hard to get a Democratic chamber in the Assembly as we do a Democratic governor. So, I'm done.
Great. So the next piece is redistricting. Sorry, I was a little fast on the button there. So the maps have changed. And those new maps are available, and I've got the link to them here. I'm not going to do that right now, but if you don't know where you live, you know which district you're in, and you should, in terms of that stuff should get sent out with. I don't know if that's true. Adrian or Ashley, do you know if the registration cards have the district on them?
Yeah,
they do. Okay.
Well, they have, I know they have their voting district, but you can very easily go to vote411.org, fill in your address. It will not only tell you what districts you're in, it will also say what candidates you're running, and you'll see the questions the candidates had to answer. Vote411.org is run by the League of Women Voters. It's nonpartisan, and it's a wonderful resource that not enough people know about. Narberth is going to be in different districts. You'll be with Mary Gay Scanlon now instead of Madeline Dean. And where I live, that no more Greg Vitale, I'll have Tim Briggs. So
I've had Tim Briggs, and now I'm going to have Mary Jo Daley, so we get to swap.
Yeah, so it's just the new districts. We're not chopped up as much as we used to be. We used to have 4 assembly rep seats in Lower Merion and Narberth. Now we only have 2. So it's a little better, but it's still not great. So Ashley, I did not understand your question in the chat. So also, League of Women Voters does a really good job.
Oh, I was just saying, Adrian, that the primary rules are determined by the states. So the party itself can't determine to have an open primary. It has to be statewide.
Yeah, that was my question.
Yeah. So
that was my question.
That would have to That would have to pass the assembly to have an open primary, and
Exactly.
then it would be always open primary. So it's not something that's going to happen.
Yeah, because they don't want to do it because they're very good at getting their ballot measures, not only on primary elections, but on the off year primary elections.
Odd year, we like to say. There's never an off year.
Yeah. Correct. Sorry. My bad.
So-
Anyway, so we haven't, we're being represented by pretty much the same people, though less, as Adrian pointed out, but we've moved around a lot in terms of who's represented by which one. So it's important to find out, so you're contacting the right person when you have either something you want to tell them or an issue that needs to be followed up on. And again, if you go to the maps, you can find it there as well.
If you're on the border, it's a little easier to get a vote411.org.
So we've got some huge opportunities, and I know there, the talking heads and the commentators and whatever have been saying, oh, it's going to be a terrible year for Democrats. Well, I don't know if anybody's been looking at the most recent polling. I think a poll just came out for the 2 statewide races, and if I remember correctly, it had John Fetterman up 9 points on Oz, which is same as it had been, but Josh is now up 12 points. It was 4 on Mastriano. So one of the things that Democrats are doing, a lot of candidates are doing, is just pointing out how crazy their opponents are. And as President Biden has wanted to say, maybe it was Obama too, don't compare me against the Almighty, compare me against my opponent. And sort of what the Republicans want to do is compare us against only inflation, but in fact they're running a lot of candidates that really suck, and the impact of that is that we are having a lot better opportunity, and with that, as we get people to vote for the better candidates when they have a really bad opponent, we need to try and leverage that into a general statement. And it's one of the things in one of the examples I had about Trump Republicans, tie all of the Republicans to the crazy stuff that's been going on, and it shouldn't be that hard to do, because so many of them voted to overturn the election in Congress on January 6th. It was crazy. And you've got a lot of Pennsylvania legislative folks who want to take full control of the election and deny us the right to vote. David, to answer your question, it's not that those are shared values per se, but that the freedom to vote, that I want to be able to have the people represent me that I and the majority of voters, if they agree with me, have elected, and they're trying to take that away. And I think that the sort of the freedom to pick who represents us and not have those people pick themselves for us is more of a shared value, if that makes sense. And as much as some of the stuff you might quibble with, just remember that they have tested these messages, and they take 2 or 3 messages, and they take random samples, and they run them through their process, and they get stats on this. And some of the links that I provided have examples of that work that they've done. So these messages they come out with, the words they use. So January 6th was an attack on our country is a better frame than it was an attack on the Capitol, and even better than it was a coup. And that it was a criminal conspiracy, to talk about it that way, again, in the sort of general terms that people understand more than the specifics that that might be more legally accurate. So those kinds of things are really important. Anyway, so we've got a huge opportunity. If we can hold the House in Congress and add just two more senators, Fetterman's one of them, who say they will at least bypass, if not kill, the filibuster to pass critical legislation, then we can get that stuff done. And if we get that stuff done, we'll be in a heck of a lot better shape. include statehood for DC, get us 2 more senators. There's a whole raft of stuff that can get done, codifying Roe, etc. So people are really angry about what the Supreme Court has done, and taking that anger and turning it into action and getting people to come out again, as they did in 2020 and in 2018. These things are really quite possible. And the part of the redistricting is, as Adrian said, the maps in Pennsylvania, especially for the state house this year, are much more fair than they were in the prior 10 years. So real opportunity for that as well. And that is the last slide that we had. So definitely want to say thank you to everybody, but we do have some extra time, believe it or not. And I'm happy to answer questions. So anybody has a question, just.
Yeah, David does.
Yeah, can I jump in here?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
This is about the 3rd time I've heard of the race class narrative. I'm very interested in it. It seems congruent to what I've been thinking about. I'm just saying it's very vague to me. Just like, what would I actually say? I don't know. There needs to be, I'd be interested in some training, or I'd be interested in some specific materials to read, because I learn well from reading. Yeah, because right now it's just kind of, I liked what you said, that we're the Democratic Party, and the leaders of the Democratic leadership right now is dropping the ball. And that's one of the things that's really frustrating to me. But it kind of resonates with me to say, well, we can go out and give that message, even if, if the leadership in Washington is not.
So I want to say, I also had the feeling about the Democrats dropping the ball. But once I got involved and did that training with All In, they're not dropping the ball anymore. I suggest maybe going to Jamie's house party and just listen to how they're trying to mobilize everybody, get more people involved, get you involved in your neighborhood. You'll find out which voters don't vote as often, and you can go to those neighbors and tell them the importance of voting. And if you start out with that shared value, that is race class narrative. We all believe XYZ.
So, yeah, sorry. Dave, just to say, there's a bunch of resources here. They have a whole ton of content. Okay.
Can you send an email? Can you send these out in an email?
So it's the links are here in the PowerPoint.
I can also, Joe, if you send me the slide deck, I can upload it to our group with the links. And I can also, we can get a copy of the chat links and we can send those out as well for people so that they can more easily access them later. Plus, this is being recorded, so it will be posted on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm have to admit I'm getting behind in the technology. I need it like in my mailbox. If I have to, I'm not on Facebook, I'm not on Twitter.
That's fine.
I'm going to send it out to the full list, so you will get it in your inbox. Okay.
All right.
I'm David. I'm assuming you're on the Google group list. That's how you got this invite.
I got emails inviting me to the group, so
Okay,
that's it.
So you'll get this over your email. You don't have to go on Facebook. I hate Facebook.
Okay.
I'm just there because it's a necessary evil for things I moderate, but we will send it out over email as well.
All right, thank you.
And David, I just want to point out this podcast, which is the first podcast of season 2, and this podcast, the first podcast for season 1 in Words to Win By, are great examples of domestic stuff and how this stuff really works. And Anat has lots of examples in there. So if you're an auditory learner, that'll be really good.
To my knowledge, I've never listened to a podcast in my life. I don't know what one is. yeah, I'm sorry, I'm getting behind on this,
David.
but I can't keep up with this
Don't worry about
technology.
it, okay? You come here and you just click on it and it'll be right there and you can play it.
Come where?
We'll send you the
David?
link.
All right,
David?
I'll wait for the link. And Joe, can I email you if I get,
Yeah, of course.
rather than take up the time of the whole
Yeah,
group?
no, that's fine. That's great. It's good for everybody to see this. So no worries.
I'm
Okay.
I'm a teacher, David, and I promise you, it's so true. If you have a question, there's someone else who has the same question.
Mhm.
It's
Okay,
not just
good.
something that's made up. You're not the only one who's trying to sort it all out.
Yeah, because this sounds very promising, but, you know, all right, go ahead. I'll shut
And then
off.
this article is also very good and explains a lot of it as well. So I put a bunch of different flavors here because everybody learns different ways. So there's videos here, there's podcasts here, articles here. So there's, all of these links, which is, again, you'll get the PDF. You go to this resources page, just click on these and you'll get what you need. And then again,
David, I
examples
can
here as
walk
well.
you through all this stuff too. So
I just wanted to like piggyback for a minute on what was said about the PA Downs and their coordinated campaign for a minute.
thank you, Karen.
So one of the things that I am noticing and appreciating about the current coordinated campaign is that they are just in the way that they are talking, just in a very natural way. They are embodying this discussion about values. They're sort of modeling it. They're talking more about relational organizing. They're doing a lot of the things that I wish they had done before. But if you're feeling kind of like, intimidated by kind of like, I'm not sure what to say. I mean, there will be, scripts, there will be talking points. And also, again, you can also just stay within your comfort zone if there's, for me right now, I think, like, honestly, with a lot of the people I've been talking to, like, Roe v. Wade has been enough. Just that in and of itself has been very much like a unifying thing. And just the extremism, just the extremism. And, when I say, like, I've spoken to some, independents and some people who are, still Republicans. And, I was speaking with this one woman who, her husband is like obsessed with Fox News and she can't deal with it anymore. And she is, and I said, a lot of these things are like, they're not even Republican versus Democrat issues anymore. It's it's just so extreme, the way that they want to chip away at certain freedoms. I mean, there's, with what's going on, I mean, just with contraception, same-sex marriage, all these things that, again, we have, I know certainly my generation, I'll never take it for granted again. And now, to think that my own children, my daughter, who is also, gay, and, just the idea that you might have different rights in a different state. You can keep it simple, really, like, keep it simple if you're not sure, and that's okay, because simple will always work. There's a lot that, about this, the idea of freedom that, and what's happening right now that is definitely resonating with people.
Yeah, the freedom to vote, the freedom to marry who you love, the freedom to decide when and how to have a family, right? Those are all sort of in that same vein and same theme. And you're gonna, if you start listening for those things, just like, a new car comes out and you hadn't seen it, and then you see it once, you start seeing it all again. That's sort of activating what you're paying attention to. Same way you'll start seeing this around as well.
I do want to just quickly say, in terms of the Roe v. Wade, what I've been noticing and hearing from people in a lot of different parts of the country is focusing on the word decision versus choice. So decision making with your doctor, bodily autonomy, those are much better terms to use when discussing it, particularly with someone where you don't know quite where they're going to land. I mean, if we remember also, like, our Democratic senator, Senator Casey, not senator, sorry, is iffy on the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, even within our own party, who are conflicted based on their own personal beliefs. And so if we look at it as a medical decision and focus on the medical decision making and bodily autonomy, versus using the term choice, that's a really important distinction to just be mindful of and start practicing in our own daily vernacular. My 13-year-old is working on this very hard.
Okay.
it's very
Sandra Weingarten had a question about targeted districts. And there is a list being put together. And Nancy, in her meeting on August 14th, will go over all that. And you'll get to see where you should put your money, which races have the best chance of having Democrats win. So she's going to go all through that. We're like a preamble almost to that. So.
Fantastic. Any other questions or things you want to ask about or talk about? We've got a couple more minutes. 4 actually.
4 whole minutes.
All right, in those 4 minutes, Joe, was one of the questions for the registration have to do with volunteering?
So the registration that I have in the presentation was for the meetings, but
the Zoom registration survey.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I have to find that. I'm not going to poke around and find that now.
No. I was just wondering. So if you guys want to volunteer, whether it's with us, with Turn PA Blue, with the Dem Party, with whomever to get Dems elected, just put your name in the chat. You can direct message me if you're being shy. If you're not being shy, then just put your name in the chat. We will be saving the chat. And I'll go through after I save the chat, and we'll take out anything that's like personal comments.
I do also want to just, this is a little bit unrelated. There's been a lot, I've been dealing a lot with the gun shop that just opened up in Ballackinwood. There's been a lot of concern about it. I can see it from my front porch. And if you are talking to people who are upset and concerned about it, it's a great way to kind of rope them into engagement on state elections. Because for those who are unaware, a gun shop, essentially, for lack of a better term, they transfer guns and provide training and exchange the gun to provide licensure to individuals. Opened up on the corner at the old Dana Hot Yoga. Could it be more ironic that the gun shop opened up in the yoga studio? Probably not.
To interrupt really briefly, he did admit that he is a gun dealer. So
I mean, that's what he is.
Gun dealer.
He's a gun dealer, but he's not a shop in the traditional sense that there's not like a huge inventory in it. So it's like it's an FLL. It's a training center, and you can also purchase a gun through them, and they deliver it to you there and transfer it to your car. But there's nothing our township can do. It's within a mile of 7 schools. 7. It's less than a mile from 7 schools, and our township cannot say in a zoning law you cannot open a gun shop, a gun dealer within 7 miles. It's in the old Dana Hot Yoga, Kate. It's on the corner. It's right across from the BMW dealership on the corner of Bala and Montgomery. But one of the things you can do when people are upset is say, like, listen, this is a state law that municipalities have no control over things like this. So if this is upsetting you, you want to focus on the state legislature, and here's some ways you can help. And so I've been I've probably funneled 50 people at this point into state election interest for the first time ever. Because this is, so a lot of these are areas that you can say, like, again, with the Roe v. Wade, for the first time, people are becoming interested in what state legislatures do, because Roe v. Wade being overturned is giving it back to the states. So what's keeping our rights intact in Pennsylvania is the state legislature and the governor's race. And so people who normally don't pay attention to state level politics and just kind of focus on national and like the big sexy elections suddenly realize they need to pay attention. So
that's why I did the thing on the constitutional amendments, because that's a state legislature.
Yep, exactly. So
can I just make like just a quick point about shot tech specifically. So it's also a little messy because there's definitely an ideological.
Oh yeah, it's a good rabbit hole.
It's so, and I actually happen to know the owner's wife because she's actually a coworker. So yeah, like, and so I know a little bit about him. So just this shop is targeted, so to speak, almost not completely, but mostly to the Orthodox Jewish community, which is very much what this is about, the location.
And
that it's really
it's within the Arov line. Like my neighborhood is heavily Orthodox if you're over here.
Right.
And the
why
owner
is
of
that
the building
community interest in the guns? So why are they in the guns?
To protect themselves.
Dog whistle politics. That's what it's about.
Right. It's not anything that anyone is going to be able to kind of really wrap their heads around. The, it's more complicated, but it also makes it more complicated because some of the proponents of the gun shop are also arguing that essentially trying to shut us out and our, ability as Jews to come together and teach other Jews to protect themselves in the event of incidents with those that hate us. And that, that is a thing, right? So that's
there
also
are guards at all the Jewish schools and synagogues.
Right. So, and also this is also not his first rodeo. I mean, he actually he was basically doing the same thing, but it was out of, Monument Avenue. And also, I think people need to just also be really aware that, again, there are, because I looked it up, like how many other, what is it called? FFSs. I mean, a lot of people are doing this out of their homes. Like
there's quite a few, but what I'm saying is don't get into the debate about shot tech. Because honestly, if we're going to have something, if I'm going to have some sort of gun establishment within walking my porch, I would rather have him than like what goes on in Oaks. But help people understand where their energy
the gun rules from the state, right?
Where it's all about directing their energy. It's not about discussing this particular individual. And I mean,
I just wanted people here to be aware.
No, thank you. Appreciate that, Jamie. So we are now over time, so we're gonna wrap up. And Adrian, if you want to end the recording, that's fine. I really do want to thank everybody so much for coming this evening. It was great to see you all. We will see what we can do to have a little bit more regular cadence on having some kind of meetings. Maybe we'll figure out how to get ourselves together in person, though I not great when COVID's running around a lot. As much as everybody tries to be safe and protective, it can be challenging, and I don't want to put anybody at risk who feels that that's a problem. So we definitely want to have a virtual component to it regardless. So anyway, thanks so much, everybody. Really, really do appreciate it. Have a great rest of the evening, and we will be seeing you in the near future.
Thank you, Joe.
Take care, everyone.